everybody? Welcome to Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem, and today I'm going to recap this past Saturday's junior welterweight unification fight between Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. And then after that, I'm going to preview this Saturday's lightweight fight between Jorge Linares and Devin Haney. So, if you haven't yet, check out the preview video where we talked about what we thought was going to happen between Taylor and Ramirez, and then check out the recap after Haney and Linares to see how it goes based on what we talk about here. So in order to do that, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, because you're going to get some good technical boxing info here, and let's get into it. So first up, we're going to talk about last Saturday's exciting junior welterweight, super featherweight, 140-pound unification bout between Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. This one was for the undisputed championship at that weight. So that means the winner was going to have all the belts. In the preview video, we went with Taylor. It was a tough one to really come to a pick on, because both guys were so good and both guys had a lot of tools in the toolbox to be able to use in order to win. Two of the things that we talked about in that video were the ability of Ramirez to get off in combination between Taylor, and the ability for Taylor to be able to catch Ramirez as he was coming in those in-between ranges, because what we said in that preview video, that Taylor was the better inside fighter, like when they're both body to body, but at that little small, closer mid-range, Ramirez was going to have his advantage there, and then when they were at full distance, Taylor was going to have his advantage. So there were spots where Taylor would be able to catch Ramirez, and that's what he was able to do in this fight. But also, Ramirez was able to execute his game plan as well and use those combinations to outwork Taylor in some spots. Now, when I first watched the fight, I did miss the first few rounds. I was watching UFC as well, so I was trying to flip back and forth, and I caught it from round 4 on. And then I had to go back and watch those first 3 rounds. Now, when I initially watched it, I thought that it was a very wide win for Taylor, even though he did take the end of the fight off. Rounds 9 through 12, he clearly felt he was in control and winning the fight, and went into a coast, if you will, and it almost cost him. So when they first read those scorecards, I was like, wait, whoa. All 3 judges gave it 6 rounds apiece. That's way too generous. Then I watched the whole fight. And I watched, what both guys were doing, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm a little too hard on the judges. And I think, a lot of the Taylor contingency was probably where I was when I was first. I really wasn't watching a lot of, what Ramirez was doing. I was just kind of watching it, being entertained, and Josh Taylor was doing some great work. Like I said, he was catching Ramirez a lot in that mid-range. But when I watched those earlier rounds, and when you're scoring a fight, you're supposed to score round by round. And a lot of times you don't actually do that, especially watching the fight live. You're caught up in the excitement. We aren't paid to judge the fight, so we're rooting for our guy or just looking for a good fight. And we definitely got that. This was a great fight between 2 hungry, young, talented fighters. And that's something we're seeing a lot more of now. And I take my hat off to both the fighters and the promoters for getting these fights together, where we got the young, up-and-coming guys fighting each other before, it becomes like the mega pay-per-view event. Like, we had a big stretch between like 2005 and 2000, maybe like 17, 18, where that was the build up for the sport of boxing. You kept the two best guys in the division apart from each other until there was, absolutely nobody left. And it did hurt a lot of fighters, and it helped a lot of fighters. But for fans, it was really frustrating to see two guys that obviously should be fighting each other, not fighting each other until, it was like absolutely nothing else for them to do. And I like that, both Taylor and Ramirez could have defended their belts against mandatories and other up-and-comers in the division. Some older veterans that could have, that are still have a name, but they decided to fight each other. Both of them wanted to be the guy at 140 pounds. So you got to take your hat off to both of them. So going back into the actual fight, those first 4 rounds were really close. Taylor was doing some great work from the outside, doing really good feints with his lead right jab. And Ramirez was kind of, using his head feints, changing his levels, and also getting a little bit of advantage in the foot placement game, and was able to use his jab to success in several spots. Once he did get into that range where he was close enough to throw his combinations, he let him go. And so it was really like, do you like Ramirez's activity versus Taylor's sharpshooting? And because, the number of punches landed were very close for all of them. So it was really, based on preference. For me, I had the first 4 rounds split. I had Taylor winning 2 and 4, Ramirez winning 1 and 3. And from that point, I believe is when Taylor started to take over. I mean, he really found his range after that 3rd or 4th round to where he could really time when Ramirez was coming in to start launching those combinations and catch him with some good, clean body shots, some good, clean shots to the head, some great hooks as Ramirez was closing that distance to come and set his feet to throw his combinations. He would then be able to get in and either land some good work inside before wrapping up, or he just wrap him up. And another thing that has to be said about this is the refereeing. Kenny Bayless is usually a very good ref. He is also a human being, and it looked like he kind of had an off night. He did not let them really work on the inside at all, which people were saying that didn't really help Ramirez, but that's not Ramirez's game either. He's not an inside guy. He's a close range guy, but he's not an inside guy. That's something, you really have to watch and see, watching his fights. But also, Taylor was beginning to be able to weave in between those combinations and bait him to where he can begin to throw. He could move out the way and then counter him once it was done. So he begins to put on a really good boxing clinic from rounds 4 through 8. And of course, we had the 2 knockdowns. Depending on which camp you're looking at, it was either a long count or it was because, Kenny Bayless didn't break them properly. Either way, Josh Taylor landed good punches on Jose Ramirez, and he went down. The first one, he caught him with a overhand left as he's coming in, and the second one was a left uppercut off a break. And, that old cliche, that adage, protect yourself at all times, rings true, especially on that second one. If the ref doesn't say break, you don't stop punching. Taylor didn't stop punching. Ramirez let up off the gas thinking that they were going to break, but he didn't break. He gets dropped. It happens sometimes. But I think at that point, Ramirez then went into a panic mode where he was just really gunning for the knockout. And it left him telegraphing a lot of his punches, which is something he was not doing earlier in the fight. So that led to Taylor being able to like really just use his distance and his movement to keep Ramirez at bay through rounds 9 through 12, where he wasn't taking a lot of damage because Ramirez was missing a lot. However, he also wasn't giving much back either. So a lot of those rounds were going to be scored for Ramirez because he was the one actually doing work and landing some really strong punches. So the fight, comes to an end. They announce the scores. Taylor is now the undisputed champ at 140 pounds, and well deserved. The man put on a great show, save for the end of the fight. But even still, with the end of the fight, some of those rounds were close enough that you may have given them to Taylor. Like if you were a diehard Taylor fan, you probably gave him those rounds. So when I first watched it, I thought maybe like 8 rounds for Taylor. And then when I watched it again, I agreed with the judges with the draw. So this one came down to preference, but the right guy won. I do think the right guy won. Those knockdowns were the difference mathematically. And we want to see, does Taylor move up? Does he defend his undisputed crown? We will find out. Ramirez could maybe work his way 1 or 2 fights away from a rematch. Regis Prograis is still out there. Either one could fight him in order to, either defend that belt or get back to challenging for the belt again. So there's still a lot happening. Also, Teofimo Lopez is thinking of coming up to that division as well, and being the unified champion 135, takes on the undisputed champion 140. That sounds like must-see TV to me. So I have to clear this tornado warning off my camera real quick. Oh, yeah, it's about to storm here where I live at in Central Virginia. So let me finish this up. Sorry. But tell me what you thought about, Taylor and Ramirez, how you thought the fight went. Do you think the draw was, the draw in rounds was accurate, or do you think it was a little bit wider for Taylor, or do you think that actually Ramirez pulled it out? It's your opinion to which you're entitled. I want to hear it, and your theory as to why. So let's talk about this Saturday's fight now. Devin Haney, up and coming WBC. No, he's not the WBC belt holder. Yes, actually he is, because that was the belt that they elevated Lomachenko to. I can't even think of what it's called, like a champion emeritus or something like that. So it was the franchise championship. Sorry about that. My camera cut off. And we are back. But yeah, so Lomachenko was elevated to the franchise champion. So they gave the regular WBC title to Devin Haney. Boxing politics. Can't get into all that. So Devin Haney is a very, very fast-handed, technically sound fighter that is getting a lot of buzz right now, along in the division with Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia himself. There's a few other players there in that division. But this is one of those divisions where they're not fighting each other, like I talked about earlier when they were talking about the 140-pound belt, where they are. This one, they're saying the right things, but they're just not getting put together. But in Jorge Linares, he's one of those guys that's not kind of on the outside looking in, but he is a steady contender in this division. He was a former title holder, lost in a barn burner with Vasily Lomachenko, one of Lomachenko's toughest fights to date, besides, before he fought Lopez. So Haney, in my opinion, reminds me a lot of younger Jorge Linares, where, they're both technically sound. They both got some lightning fast punches and combinations. I think Linares has and still has a lot more power. And Linares throws his punches a little bit tighter than Haney. Keep that in mind. But, this is going to be a very, very solid test for Devin Haney. And even if he's to lose this fight, because of the skill and the accomplishments of Jorge Linares, we should not dump on Haney if he does lose. Because, like we said, former champion, still has a lot of power, still has a lot of speed, still one of the best fighters in the division. It just means that on that night, Linares is better than Devin Haney. And this is another tough fight to pick because of those things. Now, Linares has been knocked out in all 5 of his losses. And in those losses, they were all solid punchers that he faced. And we don't really classify Devin Haney as a solid puncher. He does have 15 knockouts in his 25 wins, but he's not seen as a power puncher or a knockout puncher. But as good as Linares is, he can be hit very easily. Even in his last fight, I can't even think of the guy's name now. I think I want to say it's Morales. Yep, Carlos Morales. So in that fight, Linares set some excellent traps, had decent power because, he did knock him out, and that was the first time that Morales had been stopped. But Morales landed a lot of great shots, a lot of uppercuts through that high guard that Linares had, a lot of straight punches through it. Now, Haney throws this kind of looping overhand type of right hand. He doesn't really throw it straight like that. It kind of comes like that. And he could catch Linares possibly while throwing a hook and go over top of it, or when he's throwing a jab, which throwing a punch like that works for that very reason. And that may be why he's been taught to throw his hand that way, to like go over top of a jab if they throw it at that point. So that will be a key here. Also, Haney is at this point faster than Linares. He's going to be able to get off some really crisp, quick combinations and be able to pile up points on Linares. But this is not going to be an easy fight for either guy by any stretch of the imagination. I predict that this is going to be another very entertaining fight that we get from Haney and Linares. Both guys, like I said, they are very good technically. They have excellent speed. Linares has some really good power. Haney has some decent power. And so we're going to get some good exchanges, to which Haney, I believe, is going to throw more punches. Linares may be able to get his in a little bit cleaner. So there's a possibility that Haney could be hurt here. And that's going to be something like when we saw Ryan Garcia in his last fight. He had to overcome that adversity. So now we get to see if that happens to Devin Haney and if he can overcome that. I believe that he does, and I believe he gets it done via decision. In another close fight, I think we're going to have like a 7-5 type of fight here either way. And there's going to be a lot of exchanges to where this is where the fight is going to be won or lost, is in those exchanges. Both guys have a decent jab. I think Linares is better because of where he throws his from. He throws his from here, whereas Haney comes here and throws it like that. So that's going to leave opportunity for Linares' right hand. Haney does have some pretty decent defense. He uses his body and moves around. He uses his legs as well. Linares doesn't use his legs like he used to, but he can still bounce in and out if he needs to, or circle. He did some great cutting off of the ring against both, let's say, Luke Campbell and my man Morales. I got Linares' record up because this man's got a lot of fights. And I remember the first fight I watched him against was like Oscar Larios way back on the Shane Mosley, Fernando Vargas 2 card. Kind of old, y'all. But like I said, this is going to be a really good fight. And I want to know what you all think also. So hit us up in the comment section. Let me know who you think is going to win, how you think they're going to be able to do it. And, you know, we look forward to rapping with you. Also, Rob is going to break down the Nordine Obiali versus Nonito Donaire fight, which is also going down this Saturday. We got a great fight Saturday going on, you guys. But like I said in the beginning of the video, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can see that as well. So that's all I got. Make sure you guys hit us up on social media as well. Capital of Combat on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit us up in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next video. Till then, fight on.
Since round 1 and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and gone. My fists are on fire. I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage. Keep thinking that it's a game. I kick round hurricane. I told them I don't play. I'm liquid.
The Black Street Fighter.